What's going on, everybody? And today we got some information on the C8 as well as the Camaro. So everybody, there has been a lot of stuff that's been going on the internet over the past several hours or so. The first of which I'd like to talk to you about is the Chevy Camaro potentially in 2023 being discontinued. Once again, here we go, where there's a possibility that this car may be discontinued for a second time in less than 20 years. So this would not be the first time, as I stated before, that the Camaro was discontinued. If you remember back in 2002 with the F-body, GM ended up discontinuing that because at the time there was supposed to have been not a great demand for the sports car market, and so they just decided to go ahead and discontinue that. And back then when they did discontinue the Camaro, the sales had fallen off like 53%. And so if you can recall a couple months ago, and I'll just show you the article right here, there had been another article that had came out that said that the Camaro was lagging behind its competitors, which are the Ford Mustang and the Dodge Hellcat. And so they had stated that even though the Camaro numbers were increasing, however small, but they were increasing, the Mustang and the Hellcat was far exceeding the sales of the Camaro. And so a lot of people attributed this to that whole debacle that was the refresh or redesign of the Camaro, which was just ridiculous. It was so bad that GM had to kind of walk it back and say, okay, we're gonna change up the refresh or the redesign that we did and give you another one. And I was also under the guise of that here in the next year or two, the Camaro would end up getting the LT5 from the ZR1 to be a direct competitor with the GT500. As we all know, the GT500 is going to be dropping the end of this year, and yeah, they just now released the horsepower for that car, 760 horsepower with 625 pound-feet of torque. And so dropping the LT5 into the Camaro would have made it a direct competitor for the GT500 and the Hellcat. So we'll see if that will still be the case. Like I said, this is all rumor right now, but there's a lot of different news sources that this is coming from. I think GM Authority, I believe OneDrive, Motor Authority, just some different publications are stating that this is, what's coming out of the GM camp. So once again, we'll see in a couple years and see if this comes to fruition. But yeah, we'll see. Now, on to other news, and everybody knows that here on July 18th, the C8 Mid-Engine Corvette is set to debut in Orange County, California. So a podcast has surfaced of Jim Mero, who was the ride and handling engineer for GM, who has said that he is actually worried about the mid-engine Corvette. And so everybody starts to, you really, if you know Jim Mero, you know that he is someone that knows a lot about cars, know a lot about GM, as I said, being a engineer for them. And he's also the person who set the 7-minute and 22-second time for the C7 Z06 at the Nürburgring. He's also the person that took the 2019 ZR1 to the Nürburgring. There was no official times that ever came out of that, but he's a person that knows about cars. And so he also stated that he was part of the design team or the development team of the C8 Mid-Engine Corvette before he retired. He retired several months ago, and so he said before that he was involved with the C8 project. So apparently while they were testing the C8, they brought a whole bunch of other very, very fast mid-engine sports cars like the R8. the Ferrari 458 Italia, a couple of Porsche 911s, and also the new NSX. Something that was interesting as well, they also brought out two C7s as well, and that would have been a C7 Z06 as well as a C7 Stingray with the Z51 package. And Jim stated that the two Corvettes smoked all those cars that they ended up bringing during that testing. Jim Mero also believed that he had not read anything ever in any magazine of the Corvette being beat by cars of similar horsepower and also similar weight. So it's safe to say that Jim felt very well or felt very good about the C7, but for whatever reason the higher-ups they didn't necessarily agree with that, because they still went ahead and pushed for the mid-engine Corvette. They enjoyed or liked how it drove at lower speeds. And so, as many of you know, the mid-engine Corvette has been a dream of a man by the name of Zora Argus Duntov, who is considered the godfather of the Corvette. Back in the early days of the Corvette, Zora wanted a mid-engine car so that he could compete with other European brands that he believed a mid-engine car would be better suited to be a competitor to those other cars. But of course, as we all know, we know how that story ended. GM did not want that, and up until now, we never saw a mid-engine Corvette until, of course, here in the next month. So another thing that's interesting is, despite all the different rumblings that's been going on stating that the C7 had pushed or had gone to its limit with the C7 ZR1, and stated that, you know, even the ZR1 had issues putting down the power, Jim Mero believed that there was still a lot that could have been gotten out of that particular chassis, which is a direct contradiction to what everybody has been hearing, that, you know, even with the Z06, the Z06 had a problem putting the power down, and then you added another 105 horsepower with the ZR1, and you were really just way out of bounds in what that particular chassis could actually handle. Jim Mero also stated that with this new C8 mid-engine Corvette, you're not going to get a 50-50 weight distribution like you have with the C7. He believed you're going to get more of a 35-65 split in the way of balance on the car. And so those figures, the 35-65 is pretty common for a mid-engine car, just because the engine is in the rear. And so with this mid-engine design, Jim Mero really believed that there was going to be a problem with understeer with this vehicle because of the weight in the back. As many of you already know, understeer is when you turn your wheels to the left or to the right, but the vehicle wants to keep going straight. And so because of this design, he really believed or believes that this is going to be a problem with the C8. And so, and this is Jim stating that himself and other engineers were having this problem. So it wasn't just him that was having that believed this, but it was actually other engineers that was, you know, had that concern. And so, you know, it just, here's what a lot of people may believe might be the issue with this, is that Jim Mero, he is a self-proclaimed traditionalist. And as we all know, a lot of traditionalists are resistant to change. And so some people are believing that Jim Mero is just being resistant to change. He doesn't want to see the front engine Corvette totally go away. And so a lot of people believe that traditionalist is just, it's just like when the Corvette went from the round tail lights to kind of squared off tail lights. It's like when the Corvette went from flip up lights to a fixed light. You know, there's always going to be hesitation and resistance to change, and so change is inevitable, and you just have to kind of roll with the punches. And so people didn't like the C7. You know, some people didn't like the C7 when it first came out, and then there was a lot of people that didn't like it that eventually ended up buying one and loving it. And so I'm sure that with this new mid-engine Corvette, the same will happen. You'll get these people who said that they would never drive one or own one, and they'll end up getting one. But you will have those purists out there, those traditionalists that will not, and they will stick with C7s and below, and be happy with it. Change is going to happen, and sometimes it's for the better, sometimes it's for the worse. But we'll see. Jim Mero, he believes that when the C8 first comes out, it's going to be very, very popular. It's going to be a rock star. However, he doesn't necessarily feel that it's going to stay that way. He thinks that something is gonna taper off in the long run. And so, what will GM do at that point? Where the mid-engine has lost some of its novelty and people are screaming to have a front engine car again. Will they succumb to that and go back to a front engine? Who knows? Or will they just stay the course of the mid-engine? So that's all the information I have for you guys today. I read these different articles about this today, and I wanted to discuss it with you guys and see what you guys think. Let me know how you feel about the Camaro. What do you think about this happening again to the Camaro? Do you believe that it was because of the refresh, redesign debacle that is possibly going away? And then also the C8 Mid-Engine Corvette. Do you share and agree with what Jim Mero was basically stating, that they could have gotten more out of the C7? Or do you think it was time for us to go to a C8 mid-engine platform? And I know there's those of you that's out there that was stating they would have liked to have seen a C7 front engine, or a front engine Corvette to be built alongside the mid-engine Corvette. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And as always, everybody, thank you so very much. We're on the verge of 1,000 subscribers. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for tuning into my videos, for hitting that like button, for commenting below, whatever you do, even dislikes. It is what it is. You're still commenting, you're still interacting with me, whether it be good, whether it be bad. It is what it is. We all have our opinions, and I thank each and every one of you for stopping by this channel. And if you like this video, please go ahead and smash that like button. If you like the channel, go ahead and smash that subscribe button if that's what you're into. And as always, everybody, I'll see you later, and always, always remember, everybody deployed.